Are we all a bunch of wussies, or are we going to defeat this thing that we call the coronavirus? Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. Today, my intention is to do all three. And as you know, if anybody that's listened to my channel know that that we talk about personal development, and one of the key things in personal development is to have a singleness of purpose. And boy, if ever there was an issue that needed a singleness of purpose, this is it. So let's get right to it, everybody. Now, one of the things that is being floated out there is, you know, we've never really had anything like this before. There's a tremendous amount of uncertainty. Boy, if we talked about that word uncertainty before, that's why when we talk about the success formula, if you do point A, point B, point C, you're going to get successful. But let's apply it to what we're talking about right now. I'm going to give a go. This is going to be at least a two-part little series on the coronavirus. Today I'm going to talk about how we have been in a scenario similar to this, not exactly the same, but similar to this, and how we overcame it, and some things that we have to do, and the mindset that we must adopt in order to become victorious over this invisible enemy known as the coronavirus. Now, historically speaking, when have we run into scenarios that are similar to what we are facing right now today? Well, there are two of them that come to mind. And Eli, I'm not old enough to have lived through either one of them, but I'm an American history major, I was an American history teacher, so I know a little bit about history. I'm going to talk about these, and let's see if we can find some congruencies and figure out how we can move forward with some pride and some dignity. All right, now first of all, the first one I want to talk about is the Great Depression. It was the worst economic downturn in modern history. Now, you know, before we had the Great Depression, there was the Roaring '20s. Now, the Roaring '20s was an era when people were making all sorts of money, when there was an economic boom that profoundly affected the daily life of Americans all across the board. And then came the Depression. Now, let's think about this. We have been living recently in an economy where it's been pretty much an economic boom. We've had 7 years of plenty, if you want to get biblical about it, and what we've done is we have become spoiled to accept certain things. And, you know, I can't live without this, I can't live without that, I'm not making this sacrifice, I'm not making that sacrifice. You've never had to do it. All throughout history, oppressed people have had to make sacrifices. Talking about those that were interned in World War II in Nazi Germany as an example, they had to do without. People of the Depression, they had to do without because there were no jobs, there was no money. We're about to face a similar type circumstance, but what happens is people bond together for the common good. Now, what happened was, during the Depression, American families lived by the motto, and I quote, "Use it up, wear it out, make do, or do without." Now, we're about to enter into some economic uncertainty. Who knows how long this thing is going to take? Right? I mean, this is like, what, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, that I'm making this video, and they're closing most things for 3 weeks, a month, whatever, putting things on hiatus, hopefully that this thing will get under control. How long did the Depression last? The Depression lasted from 1929 to 1939. That was 10 years of absolute economic and family misery because people had to do without. You know, as an example, one of the things that people used to do is they would go to the movies. Well, you couldn't afford to go to the movies anymore. You know, and what happened was people banded together, and during the Depression era, women's magazines, as an example, showed homemakers how to stretch their food budget with casseroles, one-pot meals, things of that nature. My point is, when you face economic oppression, economic challenges, there's a better word, economic challenges, the key thing is you have to be creative. And you have to take a situation as it is, not better than it is, not worse than it is, but as it is, see something better, figure out how you're going to accomplish things, and take steps to accomplish them. One of the things that I preach over and over and over again is that principles do not change, but technology changes. As an example, most of the kids aren't in school. Okay, I know Eli isn't in school. They've closed the schools where he is. They're closing schools all over the country. Where I live, they're all closed. So what are they doing? All right, they're being creative. They're saying, all right, we're going to get online and we're going to try to use the technology that we have so that we can continue on. Is that going to be as good as an in-person classroom? Of course it isn't. But the point is, you do what you have to do to get the job done. Now, during the Depression, many families tried to be self-sufficient by keeping small kitchen gardens with vegetables and herbs and so on. And towns would have thrift gardens. All right, that was something else that people had. And the point is, you've got to be creative with the fact that there's going to be a lack. All right, at least for a month or two anyway, there's going to be a lack. Hopefully this will not last a long time, but once again, the Depression lasted 10 years and people did survive that. That was, that's one thing. Now, another example that I want to talk about that's similar to what we're facing now was World War II, as an example. An organization was formed by Washington called the OPA that rationed everything: automobiles, tires, gasoline, fuel, oil, coal, firewood, nylon, silk, shoes. Eli, we're talking shoes here. That means that you can't have indoor sneakers, that you use just to play basketball indoors, and outdoor sneakers. Some sacrifices are going to have to be made. And I'm just giving you an example. This is the way our mindset has to be, because we have a singleness of purpose, which is to survive the invasion by this invisible enemy known as the coronavirus. And ways of entertaining, all right? Well, you can't go out in groups. It's, right now it's not something you can do. So find some other way to entertain. You know what they did during the Depression is they had board games. Have you ever heard of Scrabble? Have you ever heard of Monopoly? That's when those games were born, and they became very, very popular. Now, I'm not telling you what games to play, but what I'm saying is there's all sorts of different ways that you can use to quote-unquote entertain yourself. Try and take this time and turn a negative into a positive. If there's something you want to do, I spoke to somebody yesterday and she's told me, you know what I'm going to do, because work stopped. Okay, they're off work until the second week in April, and she said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go home, I'm going to do my linen, I'm going to clean this, I'm going to clean that. Make something positive out of this time. Give yourself some projects to do. Chunk things down into smaller elements in order to achieve a big goal. The success formula is the same. That's the key thing. And we have survived the Great Depression, and let's go back to World War II now. In World War II, what happened? We as a country had a singleness of purpose, which was to defeat the enemy. And one of the things that we did in World War II is we all banded together as one to do something, to make something great, to keep something great, which was our country, our belief, the American way of life. We are in that position again. The enemy is completely different. In fact, once again, the invisible enemy, we don't have something tangible. However, we do have things that we can do. And I'm not going to go over the things like wash your hands. I mean, I'm not an expert on this stuff. I'm going to follow what the experts say. I'm going to do what the experts tell us to do. I'm going to minimize contact with, keep my social distances, whatever it is. But the point is, we all have to band together, and instead of being a nation of complainers, we have to be a nation that is completely unified, working as one in order to be successful. And when we had World War II, think of how we were able to win World War II. It wasn't just the United States against the great enemies, Germany, Japan at that time. It was, we combined with people that we normally wouldn't even combine with. I mean, the United States and Russia, Roosevelt and Stalin. Can you see the two of those guys together in a peacetime, working together? But when you have major circumstances, when you have an enemy that's facing all of us, we have to band together. And that means that if you're a young guy and you say to yourself, you know what, I don't have to worry because young people aren't going to suffer the major symptoms. It's just the old people, like Eli's dad, that are in risk. You have to be a team player. You have to be a team player because you are carrying that virus with you and can infect other people. So keep in mind the things for the benefit of the whole society. That's how we succeed at our best. Now, the next time we get together, I'm trying to inspire people to say, all right, we're facing an enemy, but let's face it together. Let's do the things together. Now, next time we get together, I'm going to talk about leadership, how we're going to solve this problem, things we need to do, the modus operandi, and you're going to see that the way we solve this particular issue is going to be the same as the way that you solve any great problem. Yes, any great problem. So this is my short little video for today. I hope this inspired you. Let's get together. Let's go as a team. Let's move forward. Let's, nip this thing in the bud as much as we can. Stay away from other people if you, whenever you possibly can. Do the best you can. I realize there's going to be tremendous sacrifices down the road. People in the restaurant industry and other industries where people can't, that there's going to be money. That's a situation. We will overcome that. The same way that the first thing we have to do though is we have to stop this thing. And then once we stop this thing, then we will get together again because we formed a bond and we will move forward from there. Just as we did during the Great Depression and just as we were able to conquer our enemy during World War II. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.